All right, a lot of talk about the confirmation, right? Who's going to be nominated next? Who's going to have a tough time during the hearings? What about a recess appointment? What about John Thune and what is he going to do? All right, yeah, that's important. And who's going to be the next secretary of whatever? That's all important. But can we just still take this in, right? The wonder of it all, if you will. Early last week, just last week, there was a possibility that right now we would have to deal with President-elect Kamala Harris. That is not happening, and that's a glorious thing. I don't know where I'd be right now. I don't know. I might be here. I might be somewhere else. It's really great. It's really great what happened. And a couple of great things last week. As I once said, the hits keep on rolling. When President Trump went to the White House this week and saw Joe Biden, and they went for that little walk. What an awesome moment, all right? The 45th president with the 46th president, who's with the 47th president. I love it. And I also love how it's going to look in the history books. Actually, photographically, what it's going to look like. President, 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 Trump, Biden, Trump. That is what it will look like. And that is awesome. It minimizes the Biden years. It validates the first term. The possibilities for this term, the second term, are endless. And remember what he overcame, Donald Trump, and what we all saw through. This nonsense. And this was, folks, really, really bad. I mean, yes, they arrested him, put the handcuffs on him. Remember that whole thing in Atlanta? What else did they do? This is in Manhattan. And they did this because they thought it would frighten us away and that, well, Donald Trump would not have time to wage a campaign. Yet he pulled it off, and we pulled it off. Actually, I got to tell you, when I started seeing the courtroom sketches, I mean, when you get courtroom sketches, you're in big trouble, right? I mean, I've seen these on TV for years. They're for mobsters, murderers, that kind of thing. The optics were not good, but we weren't fooled. And something magnificent was happening every step of the way. You know who Sylvester Stallone is, right? We all know Stallone. Great, great guy. Big friend of Trump's. And he talked at Mar-a-Lago last night. You may have seen this, but I think it's worth playing again. He just summarized what he's been through, what we've been through, and what it means for the globe. Check this out.
When I did Rocky, if you remember, the first image was a picture of Jesus, and it says Resurrection AC Club. I found a church that had been converted to a boxing ring. So the image pans down from Jesus onto Rocky being hit. And at that moment, he was a chosen person, and that's how I began the journey. Something was going to happen. This man was going to go through a metamorphosis and change lives, just like President Trump. We are in the presence of a really mythical character. I love mythology. And this individual does not exist on this planet. Nobody in the world could have pulled off what he pulled off, so I'm in awe. And I'll just say this, and I mean it. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
Way to go, Rock. Great speech. And it makes a lot of sense. And I remember one of my favorite movies, the very opening of Rocky. What he just talked about, Jesus and Rocky getting punched, it's at the very start of the movie. Isn't that awesome? Just like Stallone said, his movie 50 years ago, It's 50 years ago. It's an amazing moment, and it is emblematic of a lot of what we're going through. Hey, quick trivia question. Who was Rocky fighting that night in the ring? I'll give you a hint. Remember when Mickey says, did you fight last night? Did you win? Yeah, who'd you fight? Spider Rico. Oh, he's a bum. Great movie. So good, so good. Couple of other things, and it's all coming back to me, all right? Just this year, I was in a courtroom with President Trump, back a couple of rows, and there is President Trump. But that day he was the defendant, right? He was the defendant, and he was flanked by his defense lawyers. And it was set up to make them feel like, yeah, criminals. That was what they wanted us to take away. Now look at what we have right now. Talk about a resurrection. The president and those two defense lawyers have just been named Deputy Attorney General and the Associate Deputy Attorney General. That is very cool. The Lord does work in some mysterious ways, doesn't he? Todd Blanche is the guy on the right. So he's going to be the #2 official at the Justice Department. And he was at President Trump's side every step of the way. Take that full. He was like a sphinx. President Trump didn't have him speak that often, but there was something so kind of comforting and strong when he was there with President Trump every step of the way. And now he's going to be with him in Washington every step of the way. Let's see. We have this other guy. His name is Sawyer. He was the appellate lawyer, and everybody was giving him a hard time for the way he answered this question. But no, he was actually right. It was a preposterous question. Listen to this.
Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
So your answer is
no. My answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate.
All right, the fake news went bananas. It would take about 10 seconds to actually impeach somebody. You could do it on the phone. It was just preposterous. But that guy did a great job, John Sawyer, and now he will be the Solicitor General in the Justice Department. I think his job is to argue the position of the United States before the Supreme Court. And he is so qualified to do it. And had none of this stuff happened, Donald Trump never would have met the guy, probably. All right, next, please. You still got to love Gaetz. I know they're turning up the heat, but he was made for this stuff, made for it. He's going to be the next Attorney General. He deserves it. I can't believe the backlash. They don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know who they're dealing with. Here's a sample.
I want to know where Hunter Biden's laptop is. Where is it?
Sir, I don't know that answer.
That is astonishing to me.
When did you become aware that Joe Biden tried to get Ghani to lie about the conditions in Afghanistan? He did that in July. Did you know that right away?
I'm not aware of what President Biden...
You're not aware of the phone call that Biden had with Ghani?
This is the most capable, the most combat-critical force in the world. It has been, and it will be so going forward.
Not if we continue down this path.
To do that.
Not if we embrace socialism.
The fact that you're embarrassed by your country. By
no. I'm embarrassed by your leadership.
I'm sorry for
I am
that.
not embarrassed for my country.
Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it.
So what's the problem? He's good. He's great. What is the problem? All right. Well, they insist there's a problem.
He's not going to receive a very warm welcome from the career folks there. We've seen people today, our fellow reporters, crying, hugging in the hallways. I've gotten sources from text messages from sources, the Trump administration, the Biden administration. No one is endorsing this.
Did she say her reporter friends were crying about this? Maybe they shouldn't be reporters anymore. What's the problem? He's so good at his job. What is the problem? Well, what they finally get around to when it comes to Gaetz is a rumor that he had relations with an underage female years ago. It was investigated by the Justice Department. Don't you think they would have thrown the cuffs on him in a minute if it was true? Of course they would have. I mean, they arrested President Trump 4 times over fake stuff. You don't think they would have arrested Congressman Gaetz if he'd done something real? Of course they would have arrested him. It's another smear, and a lot of people are going to be going through that. Just like Oh, remember Christine Blasey Ford? Didn't know anything, didn't know anybody, didn't know where, how, when, all that stuff. And Brett Kavanaugh went through hell. Well, we're going to see some of this stuff again. We're going to see some of this stuff again. But again, for the record, Gaetz is qualified, all right? Quick look at his resume. We did this last night, but I want to reemphasize it. He's got more experience as an attorney and as an office holder than Robert F. Kennedy. You know, who was Robert F. Kennedy? I'm not talking about junior. I'm talking about senior. The revered Democrat icon, a bust of Kennedy in Joe Biden's office. His resume pales in comparison. He was 6 months as a lawyer, and then he was on and off again as a staffer on Capitol Hill, made attorney general. His resume is inferior to Matt Gaetz's, all right? No question. And just remember this, the building where these DOJ lawyers and reporters are crying, they're crying in the Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice, and Robert F. Kennedy had a hell of a lot less experience than Matt Gaetz when Robert F. Kennedy became Attorney General. However, I want to give this to Robert F. Kennedy and Matt Gaetz. Both of them are a hell of a lot better than Merrick Garland. That guy. All right, some other time. The Pentagon, just across the river. This is going to be a tricky one, and you're going to need a really tough guy like Hegseth to bust it up, because they've been entrenched for many, many years, and they've been on their own program, their own agenda for at least half a century, more than half a century. The Joint Chiefs of Staff with John F. Kennedy, they were trying to undermine him, screw him over every day. You can look it up, you can listen to the tapes. And those guys wanted to start bombing Cuba like crazy with nuclear weapons. Half of his job during the Cuban Missile Crisis was keeping those guys like, calm down, don't do it. The Joint Chiefs of Staff under Lyndon Johnson, they were lying like crazy about what was really happening in Vietnam, manipulating him. The Joint Chiefs of Staff under Richard Nixon, they literally spied on him. They stole documents from the White House and brought them to the Pentagon, classified documents. It happened. Admiral Moore, the guy in the middle there, was engineering the whole thing. Joint Chiefs of Staff under Obama. You think they would love Obama? No, they love themselves. They love the military-industrial complex. A lot of these guys, I'm sorry, they take an oath, but they don't live up to it. You would think the president gets to order these guys around. No, not really. He wanted to scale down in Afghanistan, all right? Listen to this. I've got my beefs with Bob Woodward, but this is 15 years before Donald Trump shows up, right? Watch this report about what happened inside the Obama White House with the generals.
The meetings. Obama felt disrespected and trapped. And at different times, he felt that the military was maneuvering around him. Did they think they could take a young president?
Some of them might have thought that. So you're the president who's supposed to be the decider, who's supposed to have choice, and you've got these blocks of granite out there saying, oh no, you really don't have a choice. This is the way to do it. And he was not happy.
The establishment wanted 40,000 troops, an open-ended commitment. He wanted a plan for a U.S. exit. In the end, he gave 30,000, but still the military kept pushing.
Kept pushing and manipulating and not doing what the president wanted. And that was with Obama, right? I mean, the swamp loved Obama. With President Trump, these generals could be openly defiant.